Go ahead.
The question is, what's your favorite shows, movies, whatever? And I want to know why, because I'm curious as to what, because I know what I look for in a show or a movie, but I'm curious as to what's your favorite movie you look for.
Lord.
I mean, just pick like a top three.
Okay, because like what do you look for in a show or movie? It's like,
I mean, like, because you look for different things than I do.
Right.
So like what catches your eye or something, or like when you watch something, what breaks the deal? Like what breaks the show for you?
Okay. Okay. Well, what breaks the deal? I guess. I guess it just depends. Like, you always have those moments that jump the shark in any given show.
It breaks all.
Right. Like the rules that it previously established.
Exactly.
And that's one of those big things. So like, I guess whenever I watch a show, the thing that catches me into the show normally is just a slightly different decision. I'm talking about a show like a show over an extended period.
Yeah.
A different decision in something that would normally be very commonplace. So like,
How do you mean, yeah.
I'm gonna give you a for instance, like
Right.
So like whenever you're, and I'm just using this as an example. I'm not like a huge fan of this show, but
Right.
whenever you have like the One Punch Man opening and he shows up and they have this big bad evil guy and he just waylays him in that one hit and you're like, oh, this is gonna be something different, and so then from that point forward in the show, the way that you interpret the show is entirely different
Based on what just happened.
Yeah. Right. So there's always kind of something to that where some people take something creative. So like one of the concepts I really liked, is for instance, like if I'm playing a game, like I always like the concept from Warcraft that you could be both the orcs and the humans, and that there was like these various sides to the conflict and things
Right.
like that. And so it was something that where these are normally just like fodderized bad guys that you just run at and murder. This is like, they have their own tribes and their own things and stuff like that.
Right.
So
They have depth to them.
right, and it's whenever you can tell that the depth is there. So I'm trying to think of a really good example of something that I really enjoy. I guess it's you have to be able to kind of make some sense out of it. So there was always like Dragon Ball Z. I always had kind of a problem getting into because of the linear way that power was done, and so it's just two people beating the crap out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And who could beat the crap out of each other harder with more screaming
for a longer amount of screen time.
Right. And so I remember watching that show as a kid and being like, oh well, maybe anime is just okay, or
Yeah.
whatever. And then I watched like Naruto, and they have very different power sets. And so as a teenager, like I was like, oh okay, so you could have one guy that maybe could beat somebody else, and the fighting is more 3-dimensional than just I can punch harder than you. So that's always something that I look for. But anyway, you go ahead. What do you look for when you sit down to watch a show or something like that?
Now I say, now John went in one direction, and it was you went in one direction where it's like that the same thing where you look for the reality in the games, like where's the realism?
Right.
When I look at like one of my favorite films, like it was Castle of Cagliostro.
Oh yeah, that's both of us love
about
Castle
that.
of Cagliostro.
Yeah, it's Hayao Miyazaki's 1979 film before he did Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Before he became very almost kind of
occurred.
trite, where like you knew kind of in some way that his story was going to play out a specific way. No, and that's nothing wrong with that, but like his stories kind of have that upbeat, childish kind of thing where like Castle of Cagliostro, like it doesn't. It doesn't fit within the Spirited Away Princess Mononoke, type of thing.
It's very grounded. It's,
yeah.
But I mean, what caught me with that, it was just the voice acting was there, and I was listening to the manga entertainment dub, by the way, and just like the voice acting was there. I like the style, and it wasn't the animation wasn't too clean or anything, but I guess the point I'm getting at is like I look at the visuals and I'm like, oh well, it's interesting, so I'll see where it goes and if the characters if they catch me, in a certain way.
Right.
And I guess that's anybody, but maybe they're just not aware of it. They don't look for it specifically, like I'm sure you do.
Well, I love the way that movement was done in that because I guess
Dude, that's a money cruncher right there. That movie.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But like just kind of the concept of like there's always that kind of weird place. Like if you've ever met somebody who's actually like really athletic, because there's always this weird place in like animation and film where like they make somebody do something athletically perfect, but the most athletic people I know in real life, they like trip but then like catch themselves into a roll or something. like they've like they've messed up but they're
But
athletic.
they're good at responding because of it.
Right, exactly. And so I always liked how in that movie you have Lupin like kind of like struggle with things like like he's swimming up the waterfall and it's like, oh well,
it's organic.
Right, because like a problem has arisen and he's capable to deal with it.
But he's also a human. But yeah, so you don't sit here and watch this robot of a man be animated by other robots who think this is how people work.
Right. It was always kind of why I liked Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Was that he had kind of that a bit of goofiness to his movement, like a human being would. But I feel like a lot of the movement in that show, just in general, was very organic, with the exception of maybe like Katara. She was kind of like very straight laced and straightforward.
Well, I see what you're getting at, though. I mean, I agree that Sokka's animated because when you're trying to animate something, you animate each character differently. Like now that I'm trying to be aware of it, I look at it in my characters as well. But I'm trying to animate like each character does has certain mannerisms, and Sokka has the mannerisms of like clumsy and like the fool. So.
Right.
So his movement reflects it, so it's accurate that you would say something like that.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed putting him in our 5-man band video as the fool.
Insert link here.
Yeah, insert below, like even though we're not on screen.
No, our potatoes are, though.
Our potatoes are on screen, though, so we'll see how those go. But anyway, yeah, no, and that's pretty much what I look for.
Right.
Is just that strike where you can tell this author isn't going to follow
the rules that they've set up in their own universe.
Yeah, or well, they're going to follow those rules, but there's also like it's not a cookie cutter story, because I feel like there are just so many stories that come out, and this is kind of particularly why, and people are going to just scream and holler about this.
All 6 of them.
All 6 of my followers. But I'm not a super huge. I like the visuals of the Blizzard animation shorts.
Right.
But they're just so bare bones basic. Like it's in terms of what's gonna happen. Like you.
Oh, you mean like the writing and all that?
Right. Like the Reinhardt one that came out recently.
We said it the other day.
Yeah, which is nice. Like and my brother's a soldier, and so like it gets to me on an emotional level. But I immediately watched that and I'm like, there's an older guy who's a soldier veteran, and the young brash guy. Old guy's gonna die, and it's gonna teach the young brash guy not to be young and brash. Right, and so it's just that's what's going to happen. The Bastion one with him doing that Iron Giant thing where like the little bird comes and lands on his finger, and I'm like, he's gonna be bad, but then come back like the Iron Giant. Like, it's just like, what was the most popular movie or film with this character in it? Like, I cannot wait for the McCree one.
Yeah.
Because I know that it's gonna be like,
right?
He was an outlaw, and then he saw good, and then there was a girl in trouble, and he runs in and jumps and saves her. Now he's
shouts,
good.
"Yeehaw."
Yeah, right. Like, it's just gonna be very, very, very trite.
Breaks the whiskey bottle on the side of the spaceship.
I think the worst one about that though was the Hanzo and Genji one, where the Shimada control the dragon, and like you can tell like those guys are probably Asian, but
yeah,
they're very much like, it's like, this is a futuristic world, maybe their accent would be a little different or something. No, they're just really hardcore Asian American stereotypes.
Right.
One is a samurai and the other one is a bow wielding guy with a dragon tattoo, and it's like, okay, not that we're like in 50 to 100 years in the future.
Yeah.
That is a bloodied up carcass. Sweet Bippy.
Is that the one? That's not the one from earlier, was it?
No, this is his mate.
Hot.
So the one that ran into us earlier.